parts of the world. So this is, you just come as you are. If it's your dinner time, your coffee time, just enjoy. And this is our 9 o'clock Saturday morning. So typically we had geared this toward maybe some of the grandkids could join you, some of our this is and I'm excited that this piece could be done at a later date. Like you could take this lesson today, review it again on YouTube channel, and do it with your family members, or call me and I can do something with you guys as a family if you want to schedule like a Zoom party or something. So that would be fun. Today we're doing Calla Lilies. I have always loved the shape of the Calla Lily. I think that this oval shape is very simple for us today. I think it looks elegant, simple and elegant. So what's not to like about that? I looked at I'm a muralist, so I had looked at some of Diego Riviera's work early on, and loved the Calla Lilies, but a couple of my clients asked to do those. While I'm not a proponent of some of his personal views, I do appreciate art and his art, and I'll talk about that as we're kind of going along. But he definitely has many styles, just like I do. So throughout my life, you will see transitions of work that are happening here. So this one happens to have a little bit more impressionism in it because you see like the little dots. So the first thing we're going to do, let's just get started. We want to make sure we have everything we need. You're going to need some brushes. I've got a hog's hair brush that feels rough, and I've got a very smooth brush that feels like makeup brush or horsehair. Okay, so this one holds more paint. The hog brush holds more paint, and this one holds less paint. I do have this one as round because that's going to go with my round objects. The flat one is great for my background because I really am just going to be putting it on every which way and letting that dry before I draw the Calla Lilies. You're going to need paint, acrylic paint. I'm using acrylic paint today. If you're using pastels, watercolors, great. You're still going to follow along with how to draw it, and then you fill it in the way you want to color it or render it. Render is just a fancy word for using graphite and colored pencils and stuff. I have on my messy palette plate here that I pre-poured, I've got white, which is supposed to be in the center, but it's kind of slipped down there. I've got a little glob of red, blue, and some yellow. I'm going to be making a purple for the background, so that's why I've got a lot of red and blue. And then I'm going to make kind of a teal color or a blue color for my sky or garden, you know. So we're looking at these lilies really up close, and I don't want to spend much time on the background. I'm not doing clouds and all that. This is going to be I'm going to try to go quickly. There's a lot to cover here, so if you don't get parts of it, just come back and review. And you want to have a cup of water, not the one you drink out of, just a messy one that you can put your brushes and wash them as you go. And I always like to have napkins to wipe off my brushes, and I will show you intermittently how to clean your brushes. And with that, I think we're ready. Your canvas, I'm using a 16 by 20 canvas today because it's big enough for you guys to see on the screen. There is a smaller one up here that was done on 11 by 14. You could do this any size you want. I did want to say that I am going to do a little demo coming up on one of my YouTube channels, how to repair. Look, I got a hole, because you guys, it's hard to go out and get new canvases all the time. So, you know, I want to give you a little hints on how to repair something so that you could use this in one of our classes. There's no need for me to throw this away. We can fix it. Nobody will know. All right, let's get started. I'm going to draw with charcoal today. Usually I draw with a piece of chalk, and I'm going to do charcoal today just because I do have dark rings around my Calla Lilies, and it won't matter if this charcoal mixes with my acrylic today, and you can see it better. Okay, there are 11 of these beautiful circles, ovals, mushed marshmallows. So I am going to draw 11 objects. I like odd numbers. Just saying. Okay, here we go. So this one, think about it as like a heart shape if you want. So there's number one, heart number one. Okay, I'm gonna put another one right here. I'm filling up the canvas. Don't draw them small. Who wants a small flower? We're gonna make them bigger than life. I'm gonna show you one of Diego's Calla Lily paintings in just a bit. And he filled up the canvas too. I kind of like to work big anyway, so this style fits me. I like things really close up and bold. So don't make your flowers really small and then you have all this boring background, unless you really want to spend time on the background. But think of it more like a field of calla lilies rather than a bouquet of them, right? So think about that. The lilies are very indigenous to the Mexican culture. They grow there, and of course they're symbolized a lot in their art. So it made sense that Mr. Diego would actually use that as his subject matter. Only late in his career, though. He was always doing lots of people and murals himself and things that had to do with his social causes. So this kind of work would have come much later in his life, after his Cubist movement. Okay, I have got 11 really big broad, and hopefully you can see that. I'm going to bring it forward. Ta-da! See, I've got wrinkles in this canvas. I don't love wrinkles, by the way, but I can steam them out. I can re-stretch this canvas, but I think what I'm going to do is paint kind of thick to hide some of that. So see, you just use what you have. Okay. I'm going to put it back up here. Now I'm going to give myself just an idea of where my horizon line is. What is the horizon line? It's between the sky and the ground, or in this case, the lower half of my canvas and the upper half of my canvas. So my horizon line is going to be behind the calla lilies, and it's going to snake right through there. Okay, so I'm going to make this half purple and this half like a teal color. So let's mix up some color. How do you do that? Well, so nice that all we have to have is our primaries. You don't have to go out and buy purple. So I'm going to take a little bit of my red, and I'm going to use my hog's hair brush. A little bit. I'm going to take a big blob of it, and I'm going to stick it onto the plate. And I'm going to take a blob of the blue, and I'm going to mix up what's going to look more eggplant. It's not going to look like that pretty lavender yet until we add white. But I've got to get the base color correct before I add the tint. All right, so it's looking a little, it's kind of like a more of a red violet. I'm going to put a little more red into it. I don't want it to look burgundy. Maybe a little more blue. Oh yeah, the more blue is better. Better than the burgundy. You just kind of have to experiment till you know what your how much paint you're picking up and what the right chemistry is. Now I'm going to add white to that eggplant color. And ta-da! I have a really nice color that's going to go at the base of my painting. So everything down here is going to be purple, for lack of a better word. I mean, we could call it violet on Saturday morning. Something happy. We started doing these classes at the beginning of the pandemic so we could bring you things to do and bring you joy and life learning skills. And I just really enjoy doing this with you guys. Or as in Texas, I should say y'all. That's where I'm originally from. So it's been nice. I hope that you continue to paint. If you're not painting with me, then on your own. I don't just paint. I do fiber art and clay and mixed media and graphite, just about everything. I'm trained as an architect, but I have been doing art since I was, I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years old. And I love it. I actually love it. I was living overseas, so we would take some vacations nearby to Greece and Rome, and I was able to study architecture pretty early on, and that's how I fell in love with it. So here I am full circle, not practicing architecture anymore, but painting for a living. Painting with you guys. Believe me, it's a lot harder to be an artist than an architect. Not hard, it's harder, how do I say it? Not harder, just. You have to market yourself, be your own agent. It's a little different. But at least I get to do what I love. Okay, do you see how my brush is going back and forth, back and forth? I am not worried about the direction as I am in some of our landscape paintings where I want the paint to go in the direction of way something flows, or you know how air flows, or how the ground grows. This is going every which way because I'm going to do some pointillism over the top of this later. It's a very loose pointillism. Okay, so I've got my purple on there. I'm going to add just a little bit more white over the top to some of the areas to brighten it. It's a little dark than I want it. Yeah, it's okay if you go over some of your Calla Lily shapes. The flower is very organic. It kind of curls around itself. The bloom is very beautiful. All right, so I'm just putting a little bit of white down in there. Now I'm going to mix up some teal for the top half. I'm going to wash off my brush. When you wash your brush, you just want to swish it around. And then don't squeeze the hair because you're going to pull the hair out of your brush. So all I do is wipe it back and forth on my napkin until it comes clean. I have a lot of paint on my brush. Might take me a little bit longer to clean it. This is where you're supposed to be Julia Childs and you get out another brush so that I'm not slowing you down. But I wanted to show you how to clean a brush. Okay, teal time ready. So now I'm going to take a fresh, these are foam plates. I like these better than getting palette paper, but you could use wax paper, you know, anything you have around, laying around in the kitchen. It's also when, you know, you could store it. You can put the lid over the top, put it in a gallon baggie, put it in the fridge for up to a week, and you've still got your paint fresh. That's just my little tip for you. I don't like to waste anything. I don't like to fill the landfill with dried up paint. Okay, so I'm using some blue and some yellow, and it's a pretty green, but obviously it needs more blue to make teal. You'll get this after a while. If you've been painting with me for a while, you're probably getting to where you're feeling more confident with your color mixing. So that's a nice teal, but I want to lighten it just a tad, so I'm going to put some white with it. You could have a fancy palette knife to mix with, but for today I'm moving along pretty quick, so I'm just using my brush to mix with. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use up here above my horizon line. It could be the grassy field. It could be a part of my sky. And I'm just going to go around my 11 blobs. Nobody knows what they are yet. Somebody might walk by and go, "What are you painting?" Giraffe spots. in the photo style. Some of you know what I'm talking about because you've been in my online watercolor classes. Okay, so I'm just painting between the lines, not too hard, pretty easy. I'm getting it on pretty quick. Your canvas may not be as big as mine, so you might be ahead of me by now. Okay, after I get this in, I'm going to put white into each of those little mushed shapes, or ovals, or leaf shapes, or calla lilies. So that's where we're going next if you've already got your background finished. I love these two colors together, by the way. I'm not a cool color. I don't decorate with cool colors, and I don't usually wear cool colors. But some of my paintings have them. If you have any questions as we're going along, just put them in your chat, and Rosie will feed them to me over the speaker. It's fun. I had to find someone to help me moderate because I couldn't stop and answer your questions and paint at the same time. I get paint all over my laptop, and we would be here all day probably and not get our painting done. So please feel free to ask me a question. We are going really quickly. Okay, so I'm not worried if I've got a few spots of white canvas showing. It's all going to get covered eventually, but I have a plan. This is my plan. I got a top half of teal, a bottom half of lavender, and I've got all these white spots that I am now going to fill in. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my horsehair brush because it is round and it's clean. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to fill in, even if something is white, you need to paint it, right? You don't want to leave the canvas naked like that. You'll have a different sheen going on that won't match the rest of your painting. I absolutely love using acrylic paint. I do work in oil as well. Oil just takes a little bit longer to get through and to clean up. But if you want your acrylic painting to look like an oil, you can reach out to me, email me. There's my email address right here. You can email me at deborah@deborahgullyart.com, and I will give you some hints on some mediums to use to make the sheen look more oily and less flat. Because I don't know what paint you're using today. You could be using craft paint, you could be using tempera, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but you can always change it with all the great mediums that we have on the market today. Acrylic only came out in the 1960s, so thanks to our space program and many other engineers. And it's great because it goes on pretty quickly. It's water-based, so we can wash up. It will not come out of your clothes, though. So that's why I'm always wearing an apron when I acrylic paint. And if I'm doing a mural, I just have paint clothes. That's what I paint in over and over. Unless you put on a few pounds during the pandemic, and then you don't fit in your paint clothes anymore. Oh. Okay, so I'm just filling in these little spots here. Don't worry if you get some green in your calla lily. I like that. I'm going to want some of that in there. So don't be so fussy if you get wet green paint, teal paint into your calla lily. The calla lily, while it is white in this particular instance, it does have veins in there, shadowing going on. So in depth, you know, so it's going to have different coloring going on in it, as you see in my painting. I've got some lime green and some teal in there. Okay, so now I have all the spots figured out and filled in with white. The next thing we're going to do is figure out our stems, because the stems are dark and the leaves are dark. We're going to be able to go right over, they're even a darker tonal value than our purple and teal, so we can just go right over it. We can't work on the calla lilies right now because they're still wet. So I'm working all around the canvas in different areas so that I get some dry time. If you're in a high humidity area like Texas or the east side of our country, you may have to wait a lot longer. So let's just go on to the green part, because at least we know that it's dark area. Okay, so how do I make green? Well, I'm just going to use the yellow and blue. But this time I'm not going to put any white in it. I'm not going to put as much blue and no white so that I don't make teal. I just want to make a green stem. Okay, I'm going to just randomly put some stems in where I think that the particular calla lily is growing. And I'm going to do it the way it grows. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my canvas here. You may not be able to see it very well over the purple, but I'm starting down at the bottom and I'm going to grow up. And this one's probably going to go over this one and across the white one. Let me get a bigger brush because this is a big canvas. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. And I'm going to have one here, stops just short of that calla lily. And I'm going to have one that comes up to this one. Pretty simple, huh? It's like you're just drawing lines that connect to your mushed marshmallows there. Some of my younger students always say, Miss Scully, you always say things are food. Are you hungry? No, it's just that it makes it easier for me to draw something if I label it a French fry or a carrot or a lazy C, like a letter C. Okay, this one I'm going to put behind and connect to this one. So eventually try to connect back to your flower blooms. And maybe this one is behind and goes to this one. I've got a few more to connect. This one to this one. And how about that little guy right there? Okay, I've got stems on. Now I'm going to do some leaves. I'm going to block off the leaves. I need a little bit more green mixed up. I'm going to do a big fat leaf here. Almost like a jungle leaf. Okay, so that's going to be a leaf. I'm not going to fill it in just yet so that you can see it. I'm going to have a big leaf back here. Right there is a leaf. Big, beautiful, bold leaves. I'll put a little more blue so it shows up for you on the teal. Just planning where everything goes before I fill it all in with detail. It's like I'm taking all the negative space now and filling in leaves. Negative space means it's not the positive. The positive would be my calla lilies. So in between all the calla lilies, I'm able to just intuitively know, oh yeah, I think a leaf will go right here, right? Because that's a negative space. I bet yours are looking great. And I think I need one right here. Fill this one in. So let's count how many leaves I have. I can do this painting 1,000 times. It's never going to look the same. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I think, because I like odd numbers, I am going to make a tiny little one down here in the front. So it's going to have, oh, and see, I'm twisting my wrist to make that shape. Okay, so now I have leaves and stems. Yay! Okay, now I'm going to come and work on the background because my calla lilies are still wet. So I'm going to clean off my brush. Now, if Rosie wants to speak for a minute, I'll let her speak so everybody gets caught up. If not, I will keep going. What do you think, Rosie? She might be checking something out on we're on YouTube as well. And what she would want to come in and tell you about is the fact that I do have my donation links up here for Venmo and PayPal and Bravo. So while I'm partnering with the city, it is obviously very kind. If you felt like you wanted to leave me a tip for a donation today, even if it's just $10, $20, it does help with my supplies and my planning time. And anyway, it's not necessary. These were offered for free during this time, but I just wanted you to know those are available for you. And she will put those in the little chat so you don't have to read them here online if you're joining us on Zoom today. Okay, so let's talk about this area here in pointillism. So I love Impressionism where it doesn't look like real detail, and I really can't tell what's going on here in this background. It could be more flowers, bugs, trails, footprints. I don't know what's going on here. But I love that we can take color and create depth and movement in an otherwise boring background. And these may look like dots. I will pull it forward to, or just dabs and dashes. So I'm just kind of dabbing and dashing. So I'm going to make myself 3 colors. I'm going to make a blue, I'm going to make a red, and maybe a little yellow orange so that I can use those to dab over the purple. All right, so let's do that. Let's mix up 3 colors that you want to put in your ground cover. It could be rocks, think of the pebbles and what colors they might be. So I already have a nice burgundy that I didn't use. So I've got one of my colors. I've got red out of the can, so I'm going to use that. And I've got blue out of the can. So I have my 3 that I want to use on top of this purple. So let's start with the lightest value of the 3, which would be the red. I did switch to a smaller round brush, but you don't have to. You could just put very, very little pressure on your round brush as you dab or make points. You can also use the other end of your brush to make dots, but I need to go a little bit more quickly, so I'm not going to have as many dots as it would take with the end of my brush. All right, so I'm just gonna randomly put some red. See how beautiful that's gonna be against the green. Red and green are opposites. Oh, wow. We'll call this dashialism. Now, and this is not a technique that Diego Rivera would have done. This is a Deborah Gola thing. You know, you can be inspired by other people's work, but you're going to end up coming up with your own techniques and what makes you happy. So. Okay, so I've got some red going on. I'm going to do less red near the bottom. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go with the maroon or burgundy color. Put that in between some of the red. See, this is the perfect subject and technique to do over a torn canvas because I've got peaks and valleys going on here. It would totally hide any wrinkles or rips. Don't forget in between your stems. Don't forget. Okay, so now I've got that on there. Next, I'm going to do some blue. If you want your blue to be brighter, add some white to it. Which I think I might. I might add just a tad of white to my blue. I think this blue that I used in that painting was a different type of blue. Cerulean blue, I think it was. This one I'm using is an ultramarines or phthalo blue, so it's gonna not be as bright. That's not. You'll come up with a favorite the more you do this. Okay, so I'm pointing, I've dashed and pointed in there. Maybe needs a little bit of orange. I'm gonna put some yellow with some red. Put some of those closer to the horizon. Things typically get lighter as you're closer to the horizon. Okay. That's my points on the lavender area. Now I'm going to do the same thing in my green area. So for here, I'm going to make a lime green, probably use just blue out of the can, and a light blue. Yeah, so that's going to be my 3. So I've got blue out of the can, I got light blue started here, and my 3rd one is a lime green. How do you make lime green? I'm going to use my teal plate for that. I'm going to pick up some yellow, blue, very little blue, very little blue. See, I got too much blue. You need a lot more yellow. And very little blue. Ta-da! Okay, I'm going to start with that one because that's the lightest one. So I'm going to just dab him up here. Isn't that fun? Oh, you can't go wrong. This is what I mean. You can do this project with your young ones. They will love it. You could even just give them a not a toothpick, a Q-tip and let them dab at it. So they won't ruin your brushes if you're worried about that. Oh, they can't really ruin the brush. Unless they squeeze the hog, then they'll ruin the brush. Okay, so we've got some fun slimy green. And now I'm going to make some light blue. Could be that this is some kind of blue pine, blue bonnet in the background. It could be that it's sky peeking through. We don't know. That's not the point. I want to make people think today. Too many people think for us. So I think it's nice in a painting that you don't give them all the clues. Make them really just enjoy the painting. Oh, I wonder what they're doing back there. Okay, I got my light blue, and now I'm going to put some dark blue. That might be a little too dark. I'm going to make it more teal. You're the artist, you get to change it up. Don't worry if it gets on your leaf or on your flower, that's not going to be a problem. Well, it's good to get the background done now. Yay! Oh, we need one right in there. Okay, so we've created depth now. Now those flowers are really coming forward. I'm going to bring my painting forward so that you can see my dabs and dashes a little bit more closely. Not too hard to do, right? Not too difficult. You might look at this and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? But when you walk step by step through it and just learning techniques, then it becomes easier. It's not so daunting, not so intimidating. So I encourage you to stick with it. Keep joining me to learn different ways to paint and draw. You are drawing. You drew those beautiful Calla Lilies. Okay, now I'm going to work on the leaves because my brush is still kind of got greeny blue on it or teal from the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the leaves. I'm going to use my bigger round brush. Doesn't mean you should. I don't know how big your canvas is, so you have to kind of gauge that. But what I'm going to do is use the green with a little bit of white, and I'm going to put some veins or patterning in my leaves. I'm going to put the pattern in and then I'll draw the veins. So I'm just putting a wide brush stroke. Maybe you want some more yellow in it. I'm pushing down for my brush stroke. I'm using a little more pressure to get the width of the brush onto the leafy pattern. So they're almost like big dabs now, but more controlled. It gives them a little more pattern, texture. It doesn't look like a giraffe anymore. And up here. Okay, so now I've got texture on the leaves, but I don't want to just leave them like that. I'm going to switch again to my smaller round brush. If you don't have a smaller round brush, that's okay. Just use the tip of the brush. Don't push too hard. We're not pushing hard this time. And I'm going to do a dark. I'm putting a little bit of red into my blue and green. to make a darker color for the veining on the leaves. Okay, so I'm going to start up here and draw between those little dabs that I just did. How fun is that? It's okay if it's still wet. It's just going to pick up some of the colors. They're mixing together. The leaves are really part of the background, so we're saving the best for last. If you have any questions, just let me know. Now you can see those leaves coming out. All I did is put a little bit of red with my blue and green because that red is helping it make a darker value, almost like a forest green. So that's what I got going right there. If you want light veins, like white veins or yellowy veins, that's fine. You don't have to do them like mine. I'm going to take a little more red to the purple, red to the blue. And I am going to go around, I'm going to shape my calla lily now. I don't normally outline things. This is a little different. But it's going to give a nice little shadow. Wow. You do not have to do this part. That's not your thing. I'm going to twist my wrist so I can extend the amount of paint coming off the brush. I don't have to double dip again, okay? So by twisting it, then you're getting the paint all the way around the circumference of the hair. You can also thin the line. You don't have to push so hard. It becomes very graphic when I do this, right? So there's almost a graphic nature to it. You can also dip your brush in water if you don't want to get it too much paint on there, or you're running out but you don't have enough paint mixed up. You can extend it with a little bit of water. Yay! Those of you who joined me on Thursday evening, I got to see some of your work. Some of you emailed me. That's really nice. If you didn't get a chance to do it, you can see it on YouTube. Just disregard the fact that my dog was barking in the background. He was happy to see me. He had been gone on a trip with my daughter. So he was like, ah! Oh, I didn't have anybody here to go let him out the door. I don't care if it picks up a little yellow along the way. If you've noticed, I'm not a perfectionist. Okay, so now everything, oops, I'm missing one. There's one lonely flower up here that needs to be found. And I'm going to dip my brush in a tiny bit of water to extend because I ran out of the color that I wanted. But just a little water on there can extend it. Okay, so now all of the calla lilies have been found, so they're coming forward now from the leaf just by me outlining them. Right? Now I need to find the centers of my calla lilies because I think mine are all dry. And I need to find that beautiful core that is making this spiral effect going around the calla lily. But before I do that, I will bring it forward so that you can see where I'm at. Okay. I bet yours looks awesome. And you could stop right here, but no, we gotta make depth to the blooms now. We want you to feel like you could just jump right in there if you were a little bug and feel nestled and cozy right inside of that calla lily. They're so sculptural, so beautiful. A lot of people use them in their weddings. All right, so lime green. I have some lime green left from my background. I'm gonna add a little more white to it. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a leaf shape inside the center of each of the calla lilies that's kind of green. So right here, oh, it's about 2 inches long with in relation to my 16 by 20. This one I'm going to do more of a heart shape because that one was more heart shape. Kind of look at the shape of your mushed marshmallow and do a tinier mushed marshmallow with lime green. So it becomes like 1/8 of the size. Your lime green is 1/8 of the size of the white shape. I know, you'll think that, how did she do it? Now you see how I do it. Not that hard. Just talk yourself through it, even if nobody's listening. It's just for you. So you're like, okay, we can make these 1/8 of the size. When I'm doing fiber art, it just takes 2 or 3 months to do this particular piece. This is a lot more, less involved, but I find that my fiber art is very satisfying because it slows me down and I can do some reflective work. Because I'm cutting and I'm sewing and piecing stuff together. There's just so many more steps. All right, so now I have centers to all of the calla lilies, yes, that are 1/8 the size. Okay, so now what I want to do is put in the piston, that yellow core that goes inside each of the calla lilies. So it's like almost like a straight line. And for that, you're just going to use your yellow out of the can, or out of the tube. I'm not going to bother cleaning my brush. I don't need to. There's no reason. Okay, so I'm going to take that yellow, and it can be, you could mix it with a little bit of yellow orange, and this one I had a little bit of yellow orange on there. So I'm going to go back down here to the one I started with, down here at the heart-shaped one. And you know what? I'm going to go, my yellow is a little too close in value to my lime green, so I am going to put a little red in my yellow, just a tad, not a lot, just to change the value a little bit, so it's not like, it's not exactly like the lime yellow. There, that's better. You can make these as long as you want. You can make them as squirrely as you want. This would be a really nice gift for somebody, like a housewarming gift too. They're very welcoming, the flower. Kind of like our pineapple. And it'll last a lot longer. Not like a fresh flower. Okay, so now each of these has a piston coming out of the center of each flower. But now I want to make that little dip or C shape that the piston is coming out of. So it looks like I have a little shadow or a well where the center is coming from. So I'm going to go back to my purple that I mixed up earlier. I don't need to wash my brush that much because purple and yellow are opposites. So don't bother with messing with that. I'm going to water it down too because it's really kind of a shadow. It's not an object. The well, just the deepness of the well. So I'm going to make a little C shape. Each one. I got every one of them. So now they all have a little C shape. Yeah. Now, what I call dirty up, I need to dirty up the petals. I need to make them look like they are folding or that a caterpillar's eaten off of it. I need to really dirty these white things up because right now they just look one-dimensional. So I really need to do something to them. So my white, speaking of dirty, my white's already pretty dirty. So that's a good thing. I can just dip right out of it and use what I have. Your white might be contaminated with a little blue or green or yellow, and all of that's all good. Don't feel like you have to go get more. So I'm just going to, around the edges, kind of dirty it up. That's a little blue. I think I want more of a minty or green. Add some yellow to it. And this is where, you know, if your outline's got too thick, then you can correct that while you're dirtying your Calla Lily up. Not really, the flower's not really dirty. It's just that you want to give it some character. You know, some wrinkles, some, you know, we all have the same features, eyes, ears, nose, but we all have different character marks, whether we have dimples or freckles or, you know, wrinkles. I've got wrinkles. So you just want to add all that to your painting. It really adds to it. You could think about where the light's coming from if you wanted, and you could put these yellowy, greeny highlights, or maybe the light's hitting it more. Don't worry, if you covered up too much of your white, you can add it back, right? Take your white and add it back. Because they are good and dry. Okay, so I got my flowers kind of wrinkled and dirty. Now I'm going to dip my brush into a little bit of red orange, and give a tiny little topping to my piston. A little more color to an otherwise very cool colored painting. So having that little pop of red orange is just the icing on the cake, or candles on the cake. Okay, so now I have all that in there, and I want to go back and work on my stems. those stems need a little more definition because right now they're just one color of green. And just like everything else, I like to have three colors of green or three colors of dots. So that's just kind of my way of making things look more dimensional. So we know we have that dark foresty color that we made with blue and orange, blue and yellow. And I added a little of the maroon to it. And you can put just red with it. The maroon is just made from blue and red. So this is going to be the dark side of my stem. So I'm going to pick one side. I'm going to pick that my sun's coming from the right. And this side is going to be a little bit darker on my stem. This side is going to be darker on my stem. Right? So my left sides are getting darker. Maybe under the leaf here is darker. You can go inside the leaf in the stem. You don't have to go outside it unless you need to make your leaf or stem bigger. I'm going right over the stem width with a darker side. It's coming together. I'm also going to use that same color to put on the left side of my leaves. The dark side of my leaves. If we went a little fast, believe me, you can go back and catch up with the video. All right, now that I have a dark to the left side of leaves and stems, I'm going to make a light side. So yellow, white, tiny bit of blue. Right? Because you want it to be a light green, not a dark green. See how much you're learning? You're learning so much about color mixing. Really, acrylic painting is a lot about color mixing. Okay, now we are going to do the left side of our stems. That's a little close to the color of my pistons, so I'm going to fix that. Put it on the top of my leaf here. And, oh, let's say the light's catching the top of this veins. A little bit in there. Coming together. Very sculptural, for sure. Yes, I bet everybody's got dark and light sides now to stems and leaves. Wow. We are almost there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just add shadows and my name. So I have a few pockets where it would be nice to put a shadow, like right in here, just to create some more depth perception. And this is a great negative space right here between this leaf and this calla lily. Let's see if I can find another spot that would be great. Maybe this little spot here would be good. Just where I've got a few pockets where things are tight and dense, that would make a great place to put a shadowy color. So I've still got some burgundy on this plate from the beginning here. I'm just going to fill this in right here. You can water it down if you want to see your point of dashialism in the back. Doesn't have to be solid. Just that little bit really helps my depth perception. You could create pockets. If you don't find one that is dense enough, you could make one. I'm also gonna, this leaf is casting a shadow, no, the flower's casting a shadow on that leaf, so I'm gonna put a little bit of that burgundy coming down over it. And maybe over here. And maybe over here. All right, we should be getting kind of near the end. While you're tidying that up, I wanted to talk to you about Tuesday, believe it or not. I know we have almost 3 in a row here since we took July 4th week off. Tuesday at 11 o'clock, you can join me, and we're going to do a Southwest landscape. So we're gonna, well, you could keep your canvas in watercolor or acrylic, whatever you choose to use. I think those supplies are in watercolor, but if you want to do this in acrylic, by all means, it will work great for that. In fact, I might do mine in acrylic actually. So because I kind of like the standing part on for when I'm working with you guys. But you could turn it landscape, as in when you print out of your printer, it asks you, do you want to be landscape orientation or do you want to be portrait? So for your Southwest theme, you could decide which orientation you want. We're going to be doing a silhouette. What is a silhouette? Oh my gosh. So you could watercolor that whole landscape or do it in acrylic. Give yourself a big moon and do that silhouette with all the cacti that we have. So this will be really fun in pastels, anything. I mean, this even really look nice. So that'll be Tuesday together in Tondo. Tondo means doing in the round. It's a Renaissance term. I love using that term. Coming together, taking a break in the middle of the week in the hot summer that we're in. I told you that I wanted to show you the Calla Lilies from Diego Rivera's. So this is one of his paintings. And I believe that he had a Catholic background. He was a twin, but his 2-year-old brother, at the age of 2, his twin brother passed away suddenly. And so he was the only child. And I think he struggled with that because his parents were so torn. And I think that's kind of when his beliefs failed him, right? So he was discouraged and didn't quite he felt like he'd been given a raw deal. So I don't know. I have sympathy for people. I don't quite understand why they choose particular views, but if you read someone's background, you might kind of get some compassion for maybe why they went down that path. Let's see. If 3 weeks from now, if Saturdays are your day, 3 weeks from now, we're going to do another Saturday PJs and art, and we're going to do this giant palm tree. So, no round objects there. So we'll just go with more of these straight lines. And this one is, gosh, I sold the original of this years ago and repainted it for a wedding gift for someone. And I asked him if I could take it back just so I could teach you guys. So I had to hunt this one down. So that's why I kind of put it at the end of the series. And then another couple of them. I'm just giving you some teasers. We've got something that like goldfish in a can, and we've got a perspective looking up at the sky. So that's going to be fun too. We got some fun things coming up for July and into the first 2 weeks of August. And then I guess I don't know what's going to happen after that. We have no idea. But we're going to just enjoy the moment, right? All right, so you should have gotten pretty far along with your Calla Lilies. I bet they're looking great. And I am just going to sign my name down here with some white. And hopefully, in just a few seconds, you can show me where you're at. The nice thing about acrylic, we don't have to worry about it running down the canvas when we show them off. Like with watercolor, it's hard to pick them up. So I'm using a small handled brush for a little more control. When I'm painting vertical, I have a long handled brush, but I would not paint sitting down with a long handled brush, or I'd poke my eye out, which I've done. So the difference is this is long, and this is short. If you see them at the store and you're like, why do I need that big brush? Well, when you're standing, this is much better for standing. This is much better for sitting. I know, all these little things that you have no clue what when you're in the store, Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby, you're like, what do I do? What do I get? The good thing is you can always return it if you get the wrong thing. But just ask me and I can kind of tell you what it is. So this one has a sheen on it. I think you noticed that when I brought it forward. You see how it's kind of reflecting with the light? That's because I put one of those mediums over it to make it shiny, because I was using very flat paint on this one. So if yours is feeling a little flat, just let me know. You can get some gloss medium from any of the box stores or online. Okay, I'm ready to see your work with the last few minutes that we have. I know we've got at least 10 or 12 on the other end of that screen, and I have no idea how many are on YouTube right now. But you are welcome to show me. And I've enjoyed painting with you today. You are awesome. Oh my gosh, that is so gorgeous, Colette. Colette, you use like all the same background color.